Hey guys, it's Paul Myers, co-owner of Intentional Counseling. We are a group practice in Frisco, Texas. We specialize in mental health and counseling. So I am going to cover a quick overview of communication skills in a relationship. Whether it's a romantic relationship, a work relationship, or just a friendship or family relationships, these communication skills are really helpful no matter what, right? They were formulated by Gottman. Gottman is a pioneer in the marriage counseling relationship field in psychology. He really encapsulated some of these communication dynamics. I find it really helpful. So that's kind of the origin of these concepts, but I add some of my flair to it, which I find helpful. And so we'll go over two of the four major dynamics that he mentioned. Okay, so the first dynamic in a relationship is a critical dynamic, or he would call it criticism. It's a way of communicating where you're constantly attacking the person that you're talking to, right? So a lot of criticism, if I'm defining it, is more about implying that that person has a flaw. So it has those implications. Hey, I'm just calling you out on your things, right? I'm always an advocate for holding people accountable, but not in a critical way. There's better ways to do so. So criticism is an unhealthy dynamic and usually just demoralizes and discourages people. But if we're really breaking down criticism, it's pointing out other people's behavior. It's a fixation on their behavior and what they're doing and not doing and should be doing and shouldn't be doing. And it usually always has the word you in it or the word why. It's very accusatory, very attacking. And it's a great way to start the conversation off in an unproductive way. Makes people very guarded, has a damaging effect on people and the relationship. So that's really what criticism is. I'll give you an example. Let's say you got a coworker and you want to call your coworker out because they're not doing a good job, right? So criticism would be going and emailing them and saying, hey, you're really bad at your job, or you're really subpar here, which is ouch, right? That's criticism. You're just digging into somebody. Okay, there's really nothing constructive about it, and people have this concept of constructive criticism. I think those two things are contradictory. I think criticism is destructive. If you're being constructive, you're going to be gentle and loving about the way you hold people accountable. You're not just going to cut them down. That doesn't work. Okay? So no one's receptive to criticism. It's why it made the list of one of the most common unhealthy communication dynamics in a relationship. So over here, that's the negative. The positive is on this side, how we treat criticism, or the antidote to it, or the alternative that's healthy. Okay? So we always encourage the expression of emotion. Expression of emotion, it's not an attack on somebody to just say how you're feeling. Everyone has feelings. Feelings are just, they're not right or wrong, they're just emotion, right? Everyone has their own emotion. Everyone's entitled to their own emotion. People have their own experiences. So if you're just expressing emotion, you're not talking about the other person and what they're doing and not doing. You're just speaking authentically for yourself, right? You're being sincere about your feelings, okay? So that's healthy. Expressing of needs is very healthy, especially in personal relationships, in romantic relationships, or deep friendships, or deep family relationships. Expression of needs is huge. It's maximum vulnerability. It's very healthy. You skip straight to the point of the core of the issue, and it's very beneficial for everybody involved, and it is not an attack to have needs. Everybody has needs. This is normal, right? I'm not talking about you, I'm just saying what I need as a person. We all have needs, okay? Then we've got the expression of your solutions. Sometimes you just skip all the arguing and all the attacks and the blame and criticism, and just go straight into the solution. Just lead with that. Hey, I think that this thing, if we implemented it, would be really beneficial. Boom. X, Y, and Z solution. Boom. Oh, cool. That's really helpful. Thank you. That's positive. It's constructive. Okay. So common expressions, speak for yourself. I feel, I need, our relationship would benefit. These are good examples of how you want to word it versus, hey, you are really bad at your job, right? Instead, hey, I am feeling a little overwhelmed with our workload. I'm needing some reprieve, or I'm needing some help, or our work relationship would benefit if we got on the same page with delegating out these tasks, rather than, hey, you're lazy, you're selfish, you're bad at what you're doing. So that's just not helpful. Okay? So you can see the difference there. So that's criticism and the healthy alternative. So the second one that I was going to cover today is defensiveness. A lot of the time, these two are very cyclical. So if you criticize, usually the natural reaction is to be defensive. So they feed into each other. If you feel attacked, you get defensive as a knee-jerk response. Now, I will say, particularly self-disciplined individuals do have the ability to not get defensive, regardless of whether they're being attacked or not. So that's always a skill to work on. But I will say it is natural as a human being when you feel attacked to defend, right? So that's why these two go together. So let's look at defensiveness. What it is you're really defending, justifying, and making excuses or coming up with your reasons or explanations. Even if you really do have valid reasons, like legitimate, factual, evidence-based arguments, being defensive still doesn't help in the communication dynamic. It kind of shuts the communication down. So we don't want to, even if you have great points, getting defensive about it doesn't help. It just makes the communication unproductive. Okay? It kind of derails the conversation. Now you're lawyering a court case of why you did what you did, and your reasons and explanations and justifications and excuses of why you did what you did, and you're trying to really argue and lawyer a court case of all the evidence of why it's okay, right? And so that's very frustrating for people. Nobody responds positively to this, but I do think it's common. Okay, this is particularly common in people who have lots of insecurities or lots of pride, and they don't like to admit fault or take ownership over their own behavior. And so it's very natural. I do see this quite a bit, especially in marriage counseling, in romantic relationships. Lots of defensiveness, lots of criticism. Okay? So let's look at the positive alternative to this. Just take responsibility. Just own your stuff, right? Even if you weren't wrong, even if you didn't do anything wrong, you can still take responsibility in the way you communicate, right? Let's say somebody is, sharing something with you and had nothing to do with you. You can still take responsibility. Hey, I'm so sorry you're dealing with that. I apologize for anything I've done to contribute to it. And so you just own your stuff. Very mature, shows a lot of humility, shows a lot of character, shows a lot of self-control and self-discipline to take ownership with your communication. This takes practice. If you have a tendency to be defensive, it's unnatural. But examples of taking accountability and responsibility would be to apologize, admit your fault. Yeah, you know what, you're right, I do that. Or yeah, I apologize, I'm sorry, I'm wrong for doing that, right? Or consent to improve. Hey, I will work on that. I'll take that into consideration. I'll try to be better about that. Okay. Another example is acknowledging the other person's disposition and acknowledging the validity to their statement. Hey, I can see where you're coming from on that, and it makes sense to me. I see what you're saying, I hear what you're saying, and I understand your position on that. Or yeah, I could see some of your point being very true and being very valid. It makes sense, right? So these would be healthy ways to respond to somebody. Even if somebody does attack you and they just start the conversation off negative, you can still not get defensive, but instead react this way. And what happens is you don't have an argument. It de-escalates the whole conversation. So you never really escalate conflict. This just de-escalates the conflict immediately. Somebody attacks you and you just say, yeah, I'll work on that. I apologize. And they're like, oh, wow, this is really productive. Wow, okay, conversation's over. Let's get dinner. And so it just quickly resolves a lot of issues. This is a great conflict resolution skill, wonderful communication skill to use as much as possible, okay? And it's just good to do in general, just to improve as a person. You want to own your stuff and be open and receptive to people's feedback and thoughts. So, okay? Hopefully that helps. I find almost everybody can relate to these two. So if you struggle with being critical, try not to concentrate on the negative as much. Just concentrate on the positive skill and really fixate on that and practice that. Same thing, if you have a tendency to be defensive, don't concentrate on, don't be trying to tell yourself, okay, don't get defensive, don't get defensive. Instead, try to concentrate on the positive skill that you want to practice. Hey, where can I take any ownership? Where can I take responsibility? Be quick to apologize, quick to admit fault. And people will respond much more positively to you, and all of your communication will improve in pretty much any area. So, okay guys, hey, we really hope that's helpful. If you like these videos and you find them helpful, comment, subscribe. That helps us grow, and the more people we help, the better. Definitely go to intentional-counseling.com if you haven't done therapy. We highly recommend everybody do counseling, even if you think you don't have a problem, or you think it won't help you, or if things are going really well in your life and you feel like you don't need it. Everybody can benefit from therapy, especially if you haven't done it before. So go to intentional-counseling.com. Either myself or one of our trained therapists at our practice would be more than happy to get you on their calendar. If you live in Texas, great. Or we can do telehealth as well if that's more convenient for you. All right, guys. Hey, we appreciate you. Take care.